You know what time it is. It's your boy Aquaman coming back today on this Money Monday, October 14th. Today's a great day to be alive. Let me tell you, DeFi has a total value locked, $87.7 billion locked up on it. As always, Ethereum is the king of DeFi, sitting at a whopping $48 billion. But I just love to give those updates on all my videos just so we can go back in time, in the future. But today's video is on the Metallicus ecosystem. This video that I want to kind of briefly go through is from last year. It only has 420 views, but let me tell you why this video is extremely important. It's because this guy, Eric Lyons, who's also over, it says here he's the customer support lead, he's basically hosting and interviewing Brian Hubbard, who's on the advisory board at Metallicus, okay? And he is the former deputy comptroller of the OCC. Now, for those who don't know what the OCC is, let me break it down for you. So it's Office of the Comptroller of the Currency. This is a government pardon me, guys. This is a government agency, okay? The Office of the Comptroller of the Currency is an independent bureau within the United States Department of the Treasury that was established by the National Currency Act of 1863. So, this man is extremely important. To have the role that he did over here speaks loudly. So, the beginning of this video is going to give you a breakdown of his resume. He kind of gives it to us. This guy Eric Lyons asked him, he asked him, give us a breakdown of your background. It's going to blow your mind what else is on this man's resume. So let's tap into that, and then we're going to go briefly through the video because he says some other wild stuff, and it's mind blowing how early we are and how, I'm just going to say, I'm very thankful that God put me in a position to be able to do the work and do this research, but to have this opportunity is it's just tremendous. So I just want to, give a shout out to God, because shout out to God, everybody that taps in on this, YouTube channel as well. Shout out to God for giving us the awareness of all of these gems. But let's tap into Mr. Brian Hubbard. All right. Shout out to God again.
So let's talk about that. Having an extension, like an extensive background in the federal government, that includes helping put the Air Force.
All right. Here we go. My bad, guys. I had started it a little too soon. Now it's just loading. Now my computer's lagging here, so my bad.
I have spent 30 years in the federal space, helping create opportunities, a lot of them in technology. I started out helping put the Air Force online in the mid 90s. And we revolutionized how the Air Force talked to the public. And then the second half of my career was spent in the banking space, in banking regulation. You mentioned the OCC, that stands for the Office of the Comptroller of the Currency. And we regulate all national banks. So we regulate about $13 trillion in the banking system, and all of the big national banks that are household names we oversaw. And as deputy controller, I helped lead that team's efforts in the public space regarding industry outreach, media outreach, and help develop policies and vision around technology. Wow. Wow, that is
This man managed $13 trillion. All right. So that's no joke. And again, the fact that he's on the Metallicus advisory board speaks loudly to Marshall Hayner picking an absolute gem to be on the board. And he's telling us. But let's tap in. He's going to give us some more.
It was a lot. It was a lot of fun. So so let's talk about that. Having an extension, like an extensive background in the federal government, that includes
sectors such as the OCC, what prompted you to look into the crypto, like look into cryptocurrency outside of traditional finance?
Sure. Well, it started before crypto for me. So in
Mm-hmm.
2014 and 2015, I was part of a small team at the comptroller's office looking at the future of banking. What was going to allow
Mm-hmm.
bank to survive another 200 years and meet the needs of the nation? Because at the OCC, yes, we were regulators, but we were responsible for the future of the national banking system. And we recognized that banks couldn't continue to operate the way they had always operated. They needed to embrace their competitors, new technologies, and the new ways that people like you and like me wanted to access and control their money. Think about it. For 200 years, you had to go to a bank
Mm-hmm.
to get your money. You had to go to a bank
Right.
at one point to pay your bills. And today, that's just not how people live and work.
That's real. Remember Bill Pay? Bill Pay was real too.
So that was very exciting for me. And that started in the fintech era that quickly became really the crypto area. Now, that began in 2015 when I helped then controller Tom Curry coin the phrase responsible innovation. We used it first in a speech in 2015, and it really became a buzzword and a movement in the regulation space, and really is now incorporated into Gary Gensler's views and other views. And perhaps that's done more damage than good. And I can talk about how that really handicaps innovation and creativity when it comes to how regulators interact with companies like Metallicus.
Please, by all means.
So when we coined the phrase responsible innovation, it came out of an era where we were looking at the dangers of consumer protection rather than looking at how technology could really democratize access to credit in the United States and around the world. Later, when acting controller Brian Brooks came in, he brought a different view and a different energy specifically towards the crypto world and recognized that banking was becoming anachronistic. Banking had become a privileged state. It had become a tool that, while it did great things to expand access and community reinvestment, it really was not the way emerging democracies, emerging communities around the globe needed their financial services. And we started talking about things about how crypto could be used in emerging countries to reward people that were working positively to support their communities. So because you could put all of those good deeds on the chain, you could reward individuals for education. You could reward individuals on the chain for opportunities in democracy building, and you could use that to really be a force for good inherently in the chain. And so responsible innovation ended up being a way to slow down innovation and slow down creativity while regulators could catch up. And we're still catching up. Rather than looking at innovation in ways that really revolutionize the way we think about money, because that's really scary to regulators. Regulators' job is to avoid risk and make sure that the existing system work well. So in some ways, all of the rules that were created are about incumbent protection. And that put up barriers for emerging companies like MetalPay and others that kept them out of the banking system rather than letting their tools and benefits benefit the millions of people who actually work and live and depend on the banks around the world.
And let's not forget what Marshall Hayner has. He has 3 patents. Okay, I've shared with you guys, what these 3 patents are. Go check out my other videos with Marshall Hayner and the topic Marshall Hayner. But he has 3 patents, one of them being KYC and AML built onto chain. So they are 100% aligning themselves with regulations. All right. So, this is massive. And to hear this man's feedback is just, it's just absolutely massive, because again of his resume. This guy is not just some guy named Brian off the internet. You know what I mean? But let me fast forward here. Let's tap in what he has to say right here.
No, that makes a lot of sense. Just like how you said, we're a lot of these innovators, especially platforms such as Metallicus and MetalPay, it's just figuring out the possibilities, and that's where it ultimately boils down to. It's just making the possibilities endless for people like you and me and everybody else that's listening, and just being able to understand this foreign concept that has been what some would say been more traditional as of for the last 200
right.
years. And I can see how it can be a scary concept, especially not only to the regular mom and pop Joe Schmoes, and don't want to say that, but also to those that are in positions of power, and being able to regulate. It sounds like just still a foreign concept.
It is, and you fear the unknown. So you
Right.
asked me what got me excited about crypto and why I was interested in joining the board of advisors at Metallicus, and it's because
Yeah.
I speak the language of both worlds, and I saw that the innovators and the entrepreneurs were speaking past regulators, and because they weren't speaking the same language, we weren't making much progress. And what we
Mm-hmm.
needed, and what I thought I could help with, is find a way to allow and to enable creators like yourselves speak to regulators in a way that helps them understand the opportunity. And what's really exciting about MetalPay and Metallicus and all the great work that Marshall and Lee are doing is they're building in the concerns that regulators have into the DNA of the products. They're building in things like know your customer. They're building in,
Yeah.
they're making those chains safe for, as I said, Ma and Pa Kettle in Peoria, where it makes sense. When I write a check, my name's on it, my address is on it.
Yes.
And there's a certainty with my identity. I'm standing behind it, my bank is standing behind it. You need the same sort of clarity in the crypto world for people to trust it, because banking is fundamentally a confidence and trust endeavor. And so that's why I wanted to get involved, and that's why I was excited about MetalPay and Metallicus and the work that they were doing there, because I heard them talking more similarly to the way we were talking in the regulatory space in 2015 and 2016 than anyone else I've ever heard.
And keep in mind as well, okay, so it's not just, the platform Metallicus. And the reason why I say it's not just the platform Metallicus is because it's open source. So because they already have KYC AML built onto chain, and again, Marshall Hayner has a patent. He didn't mention that, but again, tap into my other videos. Marshall Hayner definitely has 3 different patents. You know what I mean? But MetalPay is open source. So hypothetically, all of these credit unions that you're hearing about, signing deals with XPR, MetalPay, and Metallicus, we may see them put their credit union on top of Metallicus. I'm just kind of giving you a hypothetical situation because, again, this is open source, which another meaning of that is like white label. You know what I mean? When you go to your favorite grocery store, there's the branded name, and then there's the grocery store's, name of that product or whatever it may be inside the grocery store. And usually the grocery store is just white labeling from that brand, right? Maybe they slightly changed the recipe slightly. But what I'm trying to give you guys and break down to you is that MetalPay, again, is open source. Okay? So a credit union can come in and say, hey, we want to put our credit union on top of MetalPay, right? And then MetalPay will have all these different options, right? You'll have the loan options that MetalPay has to offer, but it's just not going to say loan, right? My screen is loading up here. Give me a moment. I'll show you guys. Right now, you 24 hours a day, you can pull a loan out against your digital assets. But again, this is open source. This is all what MetalPay consists of, right? So if a credit union wants to put themselves on top of this platform and then, decorate it, instead of MetalX Farms, decorate it X, Y, and Z credit union, that is very possible. Whatever the options they show you might be different from what is possible right now on MetalX Farms, right? But again, it's open source, so I'm trying to give you guys the potential of what Metallicus has really got going on, and like how they are really 100% aligned, along with only a select few others, with regulations that are eventually going to be, coming to fruition. So let's tap in. He kind of mentions here the importance of KYC. So let's tap in here.
Absolutely, absolutely. Can you, going back to things such as KYC, and how it's so similar to having your name on an address that is associated with your check. There's a lot of folks that are out there, especially in the earlier days of crypto, the early 2010s, for instance, where this concept of cryptocurrency and this concept of DeFi is just keeping everything, keeping everything behind the curtain. That there isn't much identifiers, especially theoretically speaking. Why does that need to change now? And why is KYC so important in that opinion?
So one of the things that had developed since 9/11 was the concern and the recognition that bad people use good things for bad purposes. And what I mean by that is you had billions of dollars in terrorist financing, you have billions of dollars in drug and illicit purposes flowing over the pipeline of the existing banking system. What the fear was is in a system where anonymity was impossible to pierce, would that be worse? But the reality
I would
is,
agree.
A completely auditable chain, the distributed ledger, actually can make that safer and protect your privacy. Because privacy and anonymity are not the same thing. And people misunderstood that in 2010. Privacy is, this is my identity. These are my personal things that I own, and they are mine. I choose to provide you that information. You, my bank, have a responsibility to protect it. And that's true in almost any contract environment that you're in. And fundamentally, a token or a blockchain entry is a contractual endeavor where you're pledging something and you're standing behind something. So while the parties may be private, they are not and should never be anonymous. If you understand the difference that I'm trying to make between privacy and anonymity.
So you heard it from the comptroller, former comptroller himself. Blockchain is a much better technology to protect everybody's privacy and identity. All right. So that speaks loudly, guys. Again, this guy, former deputy comptroller of the OCC. This is not a joke. Now, the last part here is he's going to tap into some other stuff too. Kind of aligns with what Brad Garlinghouse has said in the past. I've actually heard him say, but let's tap in and then we'll discuss afterwards.
The lack of clarity. See. So that's where having literacy and having an overall understanding and having these. Well, we're so happy to have you here, first and foremost. But yeah, ultimately, it's just breaking off those borders and just bringing the world a lot more closer to everybody else, and that way everybody can benefit in this what I like to call an ecosystem, because everybody contributes to it, but it just makes it so much more accessible. And who knows how many, like, there's numbers can't even tell how much many people can benefit from cryptocurrency, DeFi, blockchains, and even just having those accessibilities.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me share another use case with you that doesn't have anything to do with MetalPay directly, but it's the kind of thing that crypto and distributed ledger and what you're doing at MetalPay can change the world. We suffer from health crises in this country around fitness, whether it's obesity, our physical fitness, our obesity. Insurance companies, health companies could work together with a blockchain to create incentives to reward people for achieving fitness goals, for riding that Peloton, for going to the YMCA and joining an aerobic class. And every time you reach the milestone, you could be rewarded. That helps you because you're healthy. It helps insurance companies because it would reduce payouts. And it's a perfect use case for a smart contract that's enabled through digital ledger and cryptocurrency technology that could not exist before our conversation today. That's the way cryptocurrencies and digital ledgers and technologies will change the world. And that goes way beyond banking and deposits and paying checks. That goes into enabling the technology to better people's lives. And that's what's exciting about it.
That's huge, guys. And to be honest with you, there's a lot of, naysayers that say that blockchain is going to be evil. It's this, that, and the other thing. there's a lot of innovative ideas, just like what Brian Hubbard just explained, that can really help change just where we are as a nation. Let's face it, we're extremely overweight as a nation. Most households are extremely overweight due to McDonald's and fast food being on every single corner. So if something like that can get implemented where there's a reward system to do better and everything's connected to chain, so everything that you do is put on chain, and yeah, man, that is massive. And what Brad Garlinghouse has said in the past is that who knows what the future really holds with like how really innovative this is going to get. Like, we can't even imagine the different ideas that are going to eventually come to chain that are going to just change the whole way we live. So, you know what I mean? I mean, so that's going to do it. Listen, back to this Metallicus farms to just end this video. Look, this is a platform in the DeFi ecosystem where, look, you can earn yield with your digital assets anywhere from 34%, 16%, 22%, 32%, 40%. Heck, you can borrow against your digital assets right now, or you can lend them out. There's so many different strategies. Listen, don't dive into this without really understanding DeFi and educating yourself and creating a strategy and, just understanding what this all entails. But if you're just in crypto, hodling your digital assets on your cold storage wallet, and it's just collecting, digital cobwebs, with this happening in your in your backyard, listen, you guys can get your digital assets working for you, create a strategy. That's the reason why we put together the Wealth 28 Club with, tutorial videos, breakdown PDFs, Excel spreadsheets to organize yourself in this space. And, we have hundreds of members inside the community learning and thriving. You can come and read the reviews yourself. I'm going to leave the link of this website in the description of this video. But check out Wealth 28 Club. Even if you don't get any of your digital assets working for you, at least educate yourself on this now, so that after the bull run, after you become extremely wealthy, let's say you take profits at the perfect time, which, hey, I would strongly suggest be sure to have an exit plan, have an exit strategy. But like I always say, not financial advice, to each their own. But let's just say you take profits at the perfect time. You've made hundreds of thousands of dollars, or you've made millions of dollars. What are you going to do with those digital assets when you have DeFi, decentralized finance, right now sitting at, let's see here, what are we sitting at? $87 billion we're sitting at right now. I will guarantee in the next 5 years, this number will be drastically different. And this $87 billion right now is earning people yield. It's working for people right now, depending on what their strategy is. But $87 billion deployed in decentralized finance right now is no joke.